Alright. There's a lot of talk going around right now about portless iPhones and people memeing Apple to death. Next iPhone won't come with a battery and then it won't come with a screen. I have achieved comedy! Great job, everybody. You are hilarious. It's probably because MKBHD recently made a video about portless iPhones and he's a much better YouTuber than I am. And he brought up some very valid points, but of course, now that conversation is extending to the rest of the internet and people have been asking me what I think on the subject. No, they haven't. I'm just interested and I want to talk about it. So in today's video, we're diving into some things I think you should keep in mind moving forward with next year's iPhone leaks. Let's begin. Alright, first off, this is not a new leak. In fact, there were even leaks way back in 2017 that Apple was considering removing the Lightning port from the iPhone X. That's right, they were going so futuristic and so off into the future that they were like, well, we got wireless charging now. Why do we need the Lightning port? We can get rid of it, right? Probably some more sensible minds at Apple were like, hold on a second. There's still other things we use the Lightning port for. But you know, that Johnny Ive mentality was still there thinking like, well, wireless charging, get rid of Lightning. Why does there need to be two charging methods? So this has been on Apple's wish list for a while, and there is a lot of different pitches Apple can provide for removing it, and that's one thing I will give Apple credit for. There's lots of things they've ditched or removed in the past, and most recently, the easy comparison to make is Apple removing the headphone jack from the iPhone. Unlike anybody else in the smartphone industry who removed the jack, Apple actually explained why. You may not like the reasoning, you may think it's stupid, and you may be annoyed by it, but you gotta give Apple credit. They said why they did it, and other companies do not. If they do, it's usually some backhanded comment in a side interview. It's never on stage. It's never during the unveiling. It's always just like, and you can, use the included adapter, I guess. Or, I guess, we needed a bigger battery or something. Anyway, but Apple was literally like, hey, it's gone. Here's why, here's how we're battling it, and of course, here's how we sell a solution to you via AirPods and that kind of thing. So, Apple likes being divisive, I feel like. I think that the iPhone 12 launch was just too smooth and people seemed to like them universally, so Apple was like, how do we screw with everyone? How do we get them angry again? No, realistically, that's probably not why. I think the main concern is, of course, wanting to cram more technology inside the iPhone, and the Lightning port is taking up some precious space. Even then, I think it's a little bit of a stretch of an argument, because I imagine that the extra battery life you can get by removing Lightning would be somewhat minor, especially on larger size iPhones. Something like the iPhone 12 mini, if you were removing Lightning from this, then I think you could get some much needed larger battery capacity, but removing it on something like the 12 Pro Max, I bet you would see like an hour battery life improvement. It would not be anything that major, and with IP68 water resistance rated to 6 meters already, I doubt that would be the motivating factor as well. But one thing I do think Apple is starting to get annoyed by with the existence of the Lightning port that I don't see a lot of people bringing up is privacy, because there are a lot of black market products out there that basically can brute force their way into iPhones. There's been law enforcement using them. There's been illegal businesses that have used them in the past that basically allow themselves to attempt a bunch of different codes or try to find a way to hardway tap into the iPhone, and removing the Lightning port would highly likely make that much more difficult, because my prediction is similar to the Apple Watch, another portless Apple product that does pretty well. There would likely be some type of hard to reach and hard to find maintenance port on the portless iPhone that only Apple could access, because they're the only ones manufacturing the proprietary connector that would actually be able to tap into it. So it probably wouldn't even be visible from the outside of the iPhone, and you would have to know exactly how to tear it apart and how to access it and have the right tools. And because of that, it would be much harder for these gray boxes to brute force unlock their ways into iPhones, and Apple wants to push more privacy on us, right? And if there's no way to attach third-party aftermarket accessories to unlock the phone, then hacking and unlocking someone else's iPhone will, of course, be possible still, but a lot more difficult than it is now. And also, of course, because Apple likes being minimal. Apple likes being clean, and they don't really adopt new standards unless they see themselves utilizing it for the long term. So yeah, they introduced Lightning on the iPhone 5 way back in 2012, and it's crazy to think here we are 8 years later still using that same port. It was kind of ahead of its time, because USB-C was not really a thing yet, so some type of very small, minimal, and reversible port was pretty new. But if you guys can remember when Lightning first came out, everyone was pretty mad about it because all of their 30-pin accessories no longer worked, and people had spent probably collectively thousands of dollars worth on 30-pin docks, 30-pin alarm stands, and 30-pin connectors for their smart speakers and accessories, though I guess there weren't really smart speakers back then. They were just kind of speakers. So to have Apple just say, you know what, those don't work anymore, now you gotta adopt Lightning, that upset a ton of people, and I think removing the Lightning port is also going to upset a ton of people. But similar to the iPhone 5, I do expect Apple to keep shipping MagSafe with the portless iPhones, so there will still be a cable to charge your phone. Of course, though, you will need to make sure you have a USB-C brick, which I could see upsetting a ton of people because a lot of people don't. That's perhaps why Apple is shipping Lightning to USB-C cables this year. They're trying to get everybody ready for the big switch, but still, I get it. It would be annoying nonetheless, and you'll probably have to pick up a few extra accessories if you're going with a portless architecture. But the one thing that I see a lot of people missing as well is what the rumors are actually saying. The most recent reports talking about a portless iPhone coming next year have not been saying it's going to be portless for the entire lineup. In fact, most of the leaks have said that it's going to be at least one, which in my mind, I see that as maybe two, because I could totally see them just removing the port on the higher end, more expensive iPhones, but keeping Lightning around for the more affordable, cheaper iPhones that most people end up buying. So I know that does sound a little bit weird because Apple didn't remove the headphone jack just on the iPhone 7 Plus, but kept it on the 7. No, they removed it on the 7 and 7 Plus simultaneously. But similarly, Apple has never had different storage default configurations for different iPhones in the lineup, but in 2020, they just started doing that. And because I think Apple acknowledges that removing the Lightning port is going to mess up a lot of people's ecosystem and make a lot of their accessories useless, it probably makes sense to do it first on the market that can afford to buy new accessories or buy some type of wireless adapters. I know CarPlay is the main thing that comes up for a lot of people. Or maybe you're using the Lightning port for Xcode or hard resets, or maybe you're using it for alt stores or jailbreak tweaks. But there's something all of you have to remember when thinking about how often you utilize the Lightning port. The problem here is that Apple doesn't give a flying fork about you guys. At the end of the day, Apple knows they have a huge sheepish army that's gonna buy whatever they put out based on how well the 12 Pro Max is selling for some reason, and based on how quickly the AirPods Max sold out. They know what they're dealing with when it comes to their customers, and they know there's a bunch of people like me that don't use the Lightning port anyway and are pretty much ready to ditch it at a moment's notice. And they know that this demographic is not really going to care that much about Lightning being gone. So because of that, I could totally see these leaks being accurate and Apple deciding that, you know what, the pro market, they can afford to either buy a new car or buy some type of Lightning CarPlay to Bluetooth accessory, or have to buy new charging docks, or have to get rid of their old Lightning cables. Hopefully Apple can actually launch more of a dedicated recycling program to be like, hey, when we send you a portless iPhone, put all of your old Lightning cables in this box and send it back to us. That would make sense. So they're probably not going to do it. But if you're all panicking, similar to how everyone was panicking about the headphone jack being gone, I defended Apple's choice back then, and I'm probably going to end up defending their choice now because, honestly, I think there's a lot of people out there that feel like they are forced or required to buy the latest iPhone, no matter how minor of an upgrade it is. So just keep in mind for a split second, you don't have to buy one. There will still be iPhone options that are good, that have great cameras, that have great battery life, and the A15 chip that still ship with Lightning. And I guess if you want USB-C, you're screwed. But the portless option is most likely going to be only on $1,000 iPhones. So if you're going to complain that, well, if I buy that iPhone, I have to spend an extra $20 on a brick, that's exactly why they're not really catering to you. And maybe in time, yeah, they will eventually remove the port on the rest of the lineup, but it's not rumored to happen this year, so you've definitely got some more time before they deem that ready. And also, continuously ask yourself, do you think in 50 to 60 to 70 years we'll still be using Lightning on the iPhone? No, of course not. We're all gonna be dead because the world ended in 2020. But if at some point in the next few decades you think that we're not gonna be using Lightning and that we're gonna be using more inductive charge methods methods for everything. That's probably what Apple's thinking too. And Apple's kind of the futurist type company to try to move on and accept new standards. And it's not that they're skipping out on USB-C because they don't think USB-C is good. They're shipping it on their iPads and MacBooks. It's that they think the long-term future of smartphones is not going to be USB-C. The long-term is going to be portless, inductive charging more things, and MagSafe is going to help bridge that gap. And the good news is that if we do have to switch everything over to MagSafe, much faster charging rates than the default 5-watt bricks we've been getting for years. And it does also mean that Apple's going to have to tinker a lot of iOS 15 and macOS software to be capable of doing more things wirelessly. So whether it's compiling apps and testing them out on your iPhone for Xcode, or doing some type of hard resets and that kind of thing, Apple has to focus more on wireless alternatives if they know there's no backup. So because of that, I do definitely think there's going to be more wireless alternative software features Apple launches before they remove the port, and iOS 15 will likely give us a huge preview towards that. But just keep in mind, not every iPhone is losing the charge port next year, and Apple wants to do this for privacy reasons. And if there's some use case that you absolutely need the Lightning port for, then get an iPhone 12 or 11 or whatever, because the 11s are honestly not that bad, and just hang on to it as long as you can. And maybe 5 to 6 years from now, when your iPhone's not getting software updates anymore, there will be more of a widely accepted ecosystem of wireless charging bricks, and MagSafe accessories are everywhere and easier to come by, so the transition will be a lot simpler. And if you guys think I'm for removing the charge port next year, despite all of my Apple defense here, I honestly think it's not a great move, but not for any of the reasons you're probably thinking. I would say from a business perspective, it's a bad idea for Apple to remove the charge port because next year the features aren't going to be that worth it, which is why I'm actively encouraging you guys, don't feel like you have to upgrade every year, because next year it's probably going to be like slightly better camera, and A15 chip is even faster than before. Do some of you still think the notch is shrinking? Are you really gonna think that? Oh, God. All right, even if the notch did shrink, you would not notice it for very long. And honestly, after Apple kept the same size notch on the iPhone 12 mini, I'm pretty convinced the notch is gonna stay here until they can remove it entirely, and that's not next year. So those are some things to keep in mind with portless iPhones. Personally, I'm fine with it, and I know there's probably a lot of you guys in the Apple Sheep tech community that are fine with it. I am all about that 120 hertz display, so as soon as I can get ProMotion on an iPhone, I don't care if it's Lightning, micro USB, or USB-C, because I'm not using anything on it. But if you don't care about that type of thing, don't worry, because the entry-level, more affordable iPhones, they'll still have Lightning, and you can keep using your old iPhone if you don't want to upgrade. You have that choice. This is your Apple Sheep here. I'll see you in the next one.